Welcome, fight fans, to Ringside Ruminations. I'm Jay, the Judge Harrison, and sitting across from me, ready to lay down the law, is the one and only Marcus the Enforcer Black. Tonight, we're stepping back into a specific heavyweight showdown, a rematch that, while perhaps less outright scandalous than its predecessor, still leaves a few wrinkles in the fabric of boxing history. Evander Holyfield versus Lennox Lewis II, November 13th, 1999, Las Vegas.
Jay, my man, it's good to be here. And you hit it right on the head. This wasn't just a rematch. This was the rematch. After what happened in New York in March of '99, that draw that still makes my blood boil, everyone knew this wasn't just for belts. This was for pride, for legacy, for the soul of the heavyweight division. You felt that tension, man, even through the TV screen.
Absolutely, Marcus. The first fight, for those who might need a refresher, saw Lennox Lewis dominate for large stretches, land the cleaner, harder shots, control the ring, and yet, somehow, the judges saw it as a draw. One judge even scored it for Holyfield, which, to many, was an absolute travesty. So coming into the Thomas Mack Center, the pressure on the judges, on the fighters, on the entire sport was astronomical. No one wanted another messy outcome.
Astronomical, my friend. I remember thinking, if this ends in another draw, or worse, another bad decision, boxing is going to have a real problem. The public was already fed up. You had to give it to them straight this time. And both fighters, you could tell, they were coming to make a statement. No doubt in their minds. Especially Lewis, I think. He felt robbed. He was robbed.
Let's be clear, Marcus. The general consensus was that Lewis won the first fight comfortably. So the narrative heading into the rematch was about justice being served. But here's where it gets interesting. Did that narrative, that lingering controversy from the first bout, influence the perception or even the scoring of the second fight? Because if you re-watch the rematch, it's not nearly as clear-cut as some remember it.
You're touching on something crucial there, Jay. Because I remember sitting there watching it live, and yeah, Lewis won. But man, Holyfield came to fight that night. He wasn't the same guy who looked a little outmatched in the first one. Evander, the real deal, showed up. He brought that grit, that determination, that heart of a lion we all loved him for. He was getting inside, digging to the body, making it a proper war at times.
He absolutely did. Let's talk specifics. In the first fight, Lewis established his jab early and often, keeping Holyfield at range, landing power shots from the outside. In the rematch, Holyfield made a conscious effort to negate that. He started quicker, tried to get inside Lewis's long reach, and he had moments, particularly in the mid to late rounds, where he looked like he was genuinely hurting Lewis, or at least making him uncomfortable.
Yeah, those rounds, I'm thinking like 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8, where Holyfield was just relentless. He wasn't the bigger man, he wasn't the longer man, but he was just pushing forward, trying to break Lewis down. You saw Holyfield's incredible conditioning kick in. He was throwing combinations, body head. He wasn't just throwing one punch and hoping. He was working, man, he was working.
That's a key distinction, Marcus. Lewis, for his part, maintained his composure. He still used that jab effectively, even if Holyfield was getting inside more. He landed some significant uppercuts and right hands, particularly when Holyfield rushed in. But it became a much more tactical, grueling affair. It wasn't Lewis dictating the terms from a distance as easily as he did in the first fight. Holyfield was forcing the issue.
I think Lewis had to dig deeper in this one. You know, when you're the favorite and you've got that long reach and that powerful jab, sometimes you can get a little comfortable. But Holyfield wouldn't let him be comfortable. He made Lewis fight every single second. And that's what made it a great fight. Even if it wasn't a knockout classic, it was a chess match, but with heavy artillery.
And the judges' scorecards, which ultimately gave Lewis a unanimous decision, were 117-111, 116-112, and 115-113. Now, the 117-111, for me, is far too wide. That's Lewis winning 9 or 10 rounds, which simply wasn't the case. The 116-112 is a bit more plausible, giving Lewis 8 rounds. But that 115-113, giving Lewis 7 rounds to Holyfield's 5, that felt the most accurate to the action I saw unfold.
See, that's where the enforcer in me comes out, Jay. When I heard those scores, especially the 117-111, I thought, Man, are they trying to overcorrect here? It felt like, because of the uproar from the first fight, they just made damn sure Lewis got the decision this time, even if it meant stretching the truth a little on the scorecards. It almost felt like a makeup call, you know?
That's precisely the makeup call theory, Marcus, and it's a valid one to consider. After the first fight's public outcry, there was immense pressure for a decisive Lewis victory. And sometimes judges, consciously or subconsciously, can be swayed by the narrative or by what they perceive as the correct outcome for the sport. It's a tricky psychological dynamic.
It's human nature, I guess. But you've got to put that aside when you're judging. You're there to judge that fight, those 12 rounds, not to fix past mistakes. And that's why some people still argue that Holyfield deserved at least a draw in the rematch. Because if you erase the memory of the first fight and just look at the second one in a vacuum, it was a very competitive fight, probably a toss-up for a lot of rounds.
I agree completely. If we were to score it purely on a round-by-round basis, without any preconceived notions, there are definitely arguments for Holyfield taking more rounds than the official card suggested. Particularly with his late surge, he really turned up the heat in the championship rounds. And that's where a lot of the debate still stems from. Lewis won, yes, but how clearly did he win?
Exactly. Some people saw Holyfield in those later rounds just digging, and he's landing those clean shots, maybe not concussive, but they're adding up. He's putting pressure on Lewis. Lewis is doing what he needs to do, staying disciplined, picking his spots. But it wasn't a walk in the park, not by a long shot. Holyfield made him earn every single penny.
From a technical standpoint, Lewis's jab was still the most effective weapon in the fight. Even when Holyfield got inside, Lewis would often tie him up, or use his size to lean on him, or catch him coming in with short punches. It was a masterclass in managing distance and neutralizing an opponent's strengths, even when that opponent was giving it everything he had.
Yeah, Lewis was the bigger man, and he used that size, man. He leaned on Holyfield. He tied him up. He made Holyfield carry his weight. That saps your energy over 12 rounds. Evander's a warrior, but even warriors get tired when you've got a giant like Lewis draped all over you. It was smart boxing from Lewis, I'll give him that. But it wasn't pretty, and it wasn't dominant in the way the first fight was.
Precisely. The lack of clean, definitive moments for Lewis in the rematch, compared to the first fight, is what fuels the debatable robbery assessment. It wasn't a robbery in the sense that Holyfield clearly won and Lewis got the nod. But it also wasn't a clean, undeniable Lewis triumph that silenced all critics. It left just enough ambiguity for the debate to continue.
And that's why we're talking about it today, man, almost 25 years later. Because it was one of those fights that, even with a clear winner on paper, you walk away scratching your head a little. You know Lewis got the belts, he got the glory, but a part of you still thinks, man, Holyfield really laid it all out there. He deserved more credit than the scorecards gave him.
It speaks volumes about Holyfield's incredible spirit. To come back after being largely outboxed in the first fight, to make the adjustments, to push Lewis to his limits in the rematch, it just solidifies his real-deal moniker. He never knew how to quit, and it solidifies Lewis's legacy as a truly great heavyweight, capable of adjusting and winning even when facing an incredibly determined opponent.
Oh, absolutely. Both guys are legends, no question. But this rematch, for me, it just solidified the idea that sometimes, even when you get a unanimous decision, it doesn't always tell the full story of what went down in that ring. It was a tough, gritty fight that showed the best of both men, even if the judges still had a bit of a mixed bag going on.
So wrapping this up, Marcus, if you had to give it a final verdict, was justice served for Lennox Lewis in the rematch, or did the controversy just shift from one fight to the next, albeit in a less egregious way?
Man, that's a tough one, Jay. I'd say partially. Justice was partially served. Lewis got the win he probably deserved the first time. But Holyfield? He fought his heart out and, if we're being completely honest, deserved more respect on those cards. It wasn't a robbery, but it definitely wasn't a runaway win either. It was a fight for the ages, no doubt about it.
A fitting way to put it, Marcus, and that's why these fights endure. They challenge our perceptions, they make us reevaluate. It truly was a heavyweight clash that had everything: a controversial past, an intense present, and a legacy that still sparks debate today. Thank you, Marcus, for breaking it down with me.
Anytime, Jay. Always a pleasure, my man. And to all our listeners out there, keep those debates alive. That's what makes boxing great.
Indeed. For Marcus the Enforcer Black, I'm Jay the Judge Harrison, and this has been Ringside Ruminations. We'll catch you next time with another deep dive into boxing's most memorable moments. Until then, Keep fighting the good fight.